Hey there, so here's a kind of funky, cool little transition courtesy of Tim Goddard from Australia that involves using isolations to switch which hand is performing cap and which hand is performing pendulum as you're doing cap versus pendulum. He showed this off in a video on the Tech Boy group, and he and I had a really interesting conversation about it the other day online. But essentially, like, the way this works is, so you know the Rota maneuver where we kind of do pendulum versus cat-eye on one side, which basically means that we have to slightly change the orientation of our caps to, instead of pointing the pedal straight down, we point it a little off to the side, so it sets up a cat-eye. Well, that point actually naturally exists with the cap as we usually have it, which is, you know, half of an extension and half of a 4-pedal anti-spin, in that we treat that bottom pedal as though it is a cat-eye. Now, when we're doing the running transition, the reason that we switch it into something more like a tri-catcher is because we're trying to move to a neighboring cap, and that sets up the cat-eye in a place where it normally wouldn't be. Whereas this move right here takes advantage of a loop that always has existed and introduces another element to it. Now, we could just hang out in pendulum versus cat-eye here for as long as we want, and then come back out of it into pendulum versus cap. But rather than doing that, we're going to take advantage of the way that the poi line up at the top of that cat-eye versus isolated pendulum and switch the whole pattern into split time isolations, right? Once you're in that pattern, you switch which hand is doing the pendulum and which hand is doing the cap, and you come out of it with a really lovely isolated pattern that also switches off which hand you're using the pattern, right? And of course you can do multiple repetitions of the cap versus pendulum if you want to in between there, just to give it a better effect. Of course, this also means that you could use this to set up for going just straight up into isolations and all the fun things that come out of that. The other move that Tim and I talked about online was the possibility of working off of, instead of the loop, the arc. So that point, when it comes down and around, and then when you pick it up, normally you'd go into pendulum versus extension. But instead, we were thinking of doing split opposites isolations, which my timing is still not great on, but essentially it would kind of come out something like that. And then of course the right hand would stall and the left hand would come out of it in cap. That was god-awful sloppy. Bear with me though. And then we, nope, shit. Part of the problem is I keep forgetting which hand is supposed to switch into the pendulum, which hand is supposed to switch into the extension. Although, in the grand scheme of things, when they're lined up in split opposites, I don't think it matters. The other possibility this sets us up for, my personal favorite, is to do horizontal cat-eye versus isolation, which is also all kinds of fun, just thinking that kind of equation. It's slightly different than when I showed off a whole family of moves that share ISO versus horizontal cat-eye a couple weeks ago, in that those moves take advantage of the lineup of hand to poi head like that on either side, rather than the lineup of poi head to hand in the middle, right? So horizontal cat eye normally, but now we can stick horizontal cat eye dead in the center. So, yeah, all that and more that you can do with cat versus pendulum. So, thank you, Tim, for the inspiration, and thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great week. Peace.